Greetings, Earthlings. I'm May, and in this episode, I'm just going to go over a little introduction of me, how I got to where I am now, and basically how I can help you heal from the same things I was able to heal myself from so that you can live in that financial freedom that you know you want to. So stay tuned. Okay, so for the past 10 years or so, I have been studying the deep occult knowledge, and um, all types of different healing modalities from NLP to chakras to freaking breath work. I've been in and out of therapy um, a couple times. And I finally recently have gotten up the courage to not only share my story, but share and show and teach how I was able to get to this point. So, my entire life, I have had these intuitive gifts. I was always sensitive, um, as my mom would call it, when it came to other people's emotions and feeling them, when it came to seeing things that weren't there, um, hearing things that weren't there, feeling things that weren't there, that I couldn't tangibly touch or visibly, like physically see. And for the longest time, I I felt this shame about what it is that I could do. I felt like I needed to hide. I felt like I was actually crazy. Um and I go into a little of this on my Instagram, but my grandmother was also a very intuitive person. And unfortunately, she was locked away for her gifts, locked away, tortured, those type of things, way back in the 50s. So that always followed me throughout my life. And it wasn't until like 2017 rolled around. Um, I was very depressed. I was exhibiting suicidal thoughts and actions. Um, I would barely get out of bed. I was constantly at odds with my mother. I was constantly at odds with myself. And it got to a breaking point. So when I finally hit that breaking point, I had one or two options. I could either follow through on this breaking point, and if that was the case, you wouldn't be able to talk or see me right now or see this video right now. Or I could do something different. I chose to do something different. Um, we'll get into that in another video. But in me choosing to do something different, it opened up it opened up my capacity to be able to intake information about myself, like why it is that I feel this way, why it is that I'm doing these things, why these things keep happening to me. And it took, like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years. It took 10 years just for me to get the confidence to let go of the shame that I didn't even realize that I was carrying. Now, shame is held in your svadhisthana, or your sacral chakra. It's right above your sexual organ. And the first reading that I had ever gotten in my life was an ancestral reading. Um, this really close friend that I had, she introduced me to um, this ancestral reader, and what I found out in that reading, which is what catapulted me to just do more research, go hard on the research, go hard on the I need to know how to do this, I need to know what's wrong, I need to know how to fix this. Need. And I wasn't getting it because this is what I was not getting in therapy. And she told me about my grandmother and how my grandmother had been with me the entire time. Whenever I felt lonely, whenever I felt this shame or fear or guilt, she was with me the entire time, and that she was opening up the door for me to basically understand who it is that I truly am and who I am here to be. When I first heard it, I just cried because for the longest time in my life, I thought that I had no purpose. I came here to live and die. That was it. And until I had that reading, I thought everything about myself was something to feel bad about. I really thought that being me was or wanting to be my true self was a sin. So I go through, I have the reading done, I listen to the instructions she tells me to do to help more furthermore invoke my grandmother into my life and my ancestors along with her. I follow along with the steps, and magical things, when I say magical things really started to happen for me. um I started to just my third eye was seeing so many different things. I was understanding why the universe worked the way that it was. I was literally just, I felt like I was on cloud nine euphoria all day long. Never been on DMT, but I'm pretty sure this is how DMT felt. Um, but still, even going through that, even going through that and feeling good about that, there was something still following me. And so this is where people talking about doing the shadow work. And I wasn't fully understanding what that was. Like I said, I have a lot of trauma in my life that I don't talk about. So do I go through and look at every situation and try and rectify every situation that has ever negatively affected me in my life? And I literally went through trying to do that. And while trying to do that, I got so caught up in all of the mess that I had created in my life. And I was stuck. I was like, well, what do I do with all of this? Like this is a lot. So I start looking into the science behind this. So from here on out, like I start looking into things like NLP, um, and Reiki, um, breath work, yoga, just all different types of healing modalities. But it was still something that was not clicking for me. Like at this point, I understand how universal law works. I get that you can't put out something, you can't expect something to come to you that you have not actively put out. And then there's always the possibility that it won't come, there's duality, so it's a possibility that it won't come back to you. And I'm just so confused by everything that I'm learning, because some of the things that I'm learning are contradictory to another. So I got put at a standstill for some years. During that process, I met my husband, I had my son, and everything that I had learned over those years, it physically, my material wise, everything had stopped. I had become homeless again. I had struggled I had struggled financially, constantly scared that I wasn't, or my son or me or my family wasn't going to have a roof over our head. It was, I had went back into what I felt was a downward spiral that I had worked myself so hard to get out of. So basically, I had to spend this time to learn what is the cause behind the cause behind the cause of the cause of why my life was ricocheting into scattered pieces. And then it was like an epiphany happened. So let's do a little, I said, we're going to learn a little science. If you want to, I have a better video on my Instagram. It's called "Your Body Is Not in Charge." I was like, you are not in charge. Your body is in charge. Um, and in those videos, I go through and I show the science behind how your nervous system works and how it works with your brain. So, long story short, we have 5 different systems that we intake senses through: the visual, the auditory, the gustatory, which is taste, the olfactory, which is smell, and the kinesthetic, which is your feelings. And we intake information through these 5 different senses every second of every day. But here's the thing: our bodies, our conscious mind, can only intake a little bit of that data at a time. So, what I mean by this, so every second of every day, you intake 11 million bits of data from each one of these senses. And your body has to process this, because your mind cannot, your conscious mind cannot. Your conscious mind can only process 134 bits of that 11 million bits of data every second of every day for the rest of your life. Like scientists like the Penfield Project of 1957 goes through and shows you, he goes through and shows you, he was up here trying to cure epilepsy and finds out that the brain literally holds every memory of your life all the way up to your death. Every specific detail, smells, sight, feeling, everything. Um, and then another scientist came along and showed that it's not just held in your mind. Your body holds on to this information. So, learning that, along with looking into epigenetics and how exterior events can affect how your DNA switches work so it can turn something off or on, and this can affect you for generations. I was able to combine that information with the chakra teachings that I was learning. So, what I had came to, and this was just 2 years ago. No, almost 2 years ago. I ran across a teacher, and they showed how each chakra holds a core trauma, and a core trauma in each chakra. So basically, your body holds every memory of every second of every day, all the way up until the point that you die. There was an experiment done by Carl H. Pembroke, um, this scientist, and basically he had a rat. He had the rat follow this maze all the way through the maze so it could find his treat and then come back to him. After the rat came back to him, he took a piece of the rat's brain out. After he took a piece of the rat's brain out, he just wanted to see what the rat would do. The rat literally followed the same maze. I mean, followed the same path of the maze back to the same treat and back to the same person over and over and over again until only the nerve of the brain was left in the rat. And even with the nerve being the only thing left, it still did what it was trained or what it trained itself to do based off of memory, not just memory from the brain, but memory that is stored throughout the entire body. We'll get into epigenetics and DNA in another episode. But basically, whenever we go through something traumatic, our body, because our nervous system is literally built to protect us and keep us safe. It's meant to help us feel that sense of safety. How it feels a sense of safety? By being part of a community, by being attached to others, by saying, I know I'm not alone. I have people, I have something. And when we feel something that makes us feel unsafe from that, our body responds. And in that response, if it's not checked over time, it can consciously and unconsciously affect all of our decisions. With that being said, I did not realize until up to this point that I was, no matter what I was learning magically, there were pieces inside of me that were still very much imbalanced, and I did not know how to balance them. So it wasn't until I realized that it's not, or I was taught that it's not about cleaning up the entirety of all of the little messes that you've made in life. It's not. It's about hitting the root of the root of the root of the cause of the cause. And basically being able to pinpoint where it all started. I thought that it had to be something traumatic, very, very visibly or physically traumatic in order for your body to feel it. That I find out that that's not necessarily true. It can be as subtle as a misunderstanding between you and your child state with a parent. You have a small misunderstanding with a parent, and that small misunderstanding ricochets throughout your entire life like a domino effect. And you don't even realize. This is why a lot of people say, or have a lot of, or have a harder time healing from things that happened to them, because they say, well, this person did this and this to me. Like I asked, did I ask for this to happen? Consciously, no. Consciously, no. You did not ask for any of the fucked up shit that happened to you to happen. What happens is because of these small misunderstandings that create these domino effects that you have no conscious awareness of, things in your life literally flow to you because you're unconsciously calling it based off of this thing that you have not been able to recognize and or fix. Now, I'm going to give you a real life example of my own. And this is something that I have been able to heal myself to the point where I'm able to share it with you, which is why I'm here. There are those of you out here who need to hear this. There's those of you out here to need to know that no, you're not alone in how you feel. You need to know, and you need to know how to be able to pinpoint these things within yourself so that you can live in that desired reality that you truly want. AKA, I make I made $1 million this year. And your body feels comfortable living in that, being in that, coming that with little to no resistance after a certain point, depending on how much you work on it. So I'm going to talk about the second chakra, aka the sacral chakra. Or I hate I don't want to butcher the name, but the Svadhisthana. I don't know if I said it right, but I'm practicing on the actual working on the actual Hindu names. But anyway, so for the longest time, when it came to sex for me, it always felt awkward. It felt awkward. I did not know how to I did not know how to give or accept pleasure without feeling some type of guilt or shame behind it. Like, should I be doing this? I don't think I should be doing this. And I was like, if somebody else found this out, would they approve of this? I don't think they'll approve of this. I don't know. And I just kept myself in this little box. So I was molested as a child by an older cousin of mine. I told my mom immediately the next day what happened, and they got in trouble for it. But it did not make me feel good that they got in trouble for it. It made me feel as if, man, I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just stayed quiet because before that situation happened, me and my cousin, we were very close. Like, we played together all the time. We laughed with each other. We did what kids do. And after that moment happened, there was a real distance between us. And I felt like I was the cause of that. Now, this is what I mean by you're trying to clean up every little bit of negative things that happen to you instead of hitting the root of the cause of the cause of the cause of the root of the cause that really dominoed effect throughout your entire life. So I went through my life believing that I felt shame from this exact moment. The shame of speaking, of saying, of not saying anything at all, or basically, or not saying anything while they were on top of me and keeping my mouth shut. I thought that the shame came from that moment, when in actuality, it was just a very traumatic moment that was a domino effect of another. It took me a good 15 years to come to this realization. So I had went back not too long ago, and I said, I just put myself in a place of calmness and of peace, because the life that I wanted financially, I felt ashamed about. I felt a sort of shame about the pleasures of life that I wanted to receive. I felt ashamed about, hey, like, I want yachts in different places. I truly want to live in multi-million dollar estates and travel across the world whenever I feel like it. I want to have bodyguards just because I want some bodyguards and I can afford bodyguards. Like, this is the type of life that I want. So why do I feel so much shame about this? And I thought that I had really healed myself in this area. I was like, I'm confident. I feel confident about myself. But when it really came down to the nitty gritty of it, like standing up for myself, I would get quiet again. I would still get quiet. I would still monitor what I say. I would still think about, hmm, maybe I shouldn't say it that. Maybe they not won't like what I say if I say it that way. Maybe I should just think about another way that I should say it. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to be on anybody's bad side. And this is just what kept happening, and I wasn't understanding why. So as I'm sitting down in the moment and I'm realizing I'm going over the moment again about this area in which I believe that my shame is coming from, I realized in that moment, as I'm putting myself back into the space, this was not the first time I felt shame. The first time I had actually felt shame was my mom sat me down to have a conversation with me. And I couldn't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was doing something by myself. And she came and she sat me down and she said, "You're a child, and as a child, these nothing sexual is supposed to be going on with you. Nothing sexual at all. Nobody's supposed to be touching you. You're not supposed to be touching them. It, nothing sexual is supposed to happen, period. But I was a child who watched a lot of TV growing up, and I would see these different love scenes and stuff on television. I would see them between a man and a woman, and it made me feel things. So I would act on those feelings. And I felt good about it. AKA, basically, as a child, as a small child, I learned how to masturbate as a small child. Now, this was before the actual rape happened. And my mom had came to me and she said that nothing sexual in that nature at all should be happening with me. So I realized I felt a lot of shame about myself in that moment. Like I had did something very, very wrong. And eventually I was going to wind up getting punished for it. That realization cracked open a whole world of epiphanies. I literally, and now when I finally realized this, I also had the tools necessary to correct the situation. Because like I said, when a trauma happens, it's because your foundation, your body, your nervous system feels unsafe in that moment. And so it goes into response mode. Now, before that realization came to me, and I thought everything stemmed from that very, what I thought to be that very, very dramatic physical moment. And that wasn't it. So the issue wasn't actually getting addressed. I grew up not feeling comfortable inside of my own body. Anytime that I would, that I would touch myself or masturbate, I would feel terrible. I would hide underneath my covers. I would try to act like it didn't just happen. I would literally just take myself out of my body. And when I did finally I started actively having sex with others, I would feel that same thing, whether it be with men or women. I would feel, especially with women, like I always felt like I had to be the one in control of the situation. Like some type of way this will secure, I was like, this will protect me in some type, like this will actually protect me, and it didn't. And then when I would have sex with men, I would feel, I would be out of my body. Like I did not feel comfortable. I remember this one time, and it was with the person I really thought I loved this person. And literally right after we had sex with one another, I came out of my bathroom and they were asleep. I literally took the sheet and I curled myself up on my floor and just laid curled up on my floor. Curled up on my floor, and I didn't move for the entire night. That's just how bad it got. It was not until I met my husband where I started to feel a bit more comfortable with trying to figure out, hey, well, what is it that I actually do like and what I don't like? I felt comfortable exploring that with him. But like I said, I still wasn't reaching the core of the issue of the problem of the issue of the problem that was dominoing the entirety of my life until this point. And like I said, when I finally did, it was great because now I had the tools to be able to correct the situation. So, what do I mean by correct the situation? Now that I was able to see where the actual shame stemmed from, and it stemmed from having this conversation with my mom about something that I was doing with my body that she did not approve, or that was not approved of. I put myself back in that position. I placed my mind back into the mind of myself as a child. And I appeared to her like a little fairy showing up. And I snapped my fingers and I paused the situation. Like my mom was talking mid sentence. Next thing you know it, my mom stopped talking and little girl looks over to me and she looks and she says, "Who are you?" And I literally tell her, I said, "I'm you." I said, "Let's go talk about this someplace else." And I asked her, "Where do you want to go? Where do you feel most comfortable at right now? And she always says, I want to go to the beach. I said, okay, then let's go to the beach. Snap my fingers again, we go to the beach. I sit her down and I have a conversation with her. And the conversation I have is, hey, baby, that's a candle. That's hot. You don't want to touch that. That's hot. Yeah. hmm I have the conversation with her and I say, so you know nothing that you're doing is wrong, right? She says, I don't really know that. I said, well, I'm telling you, nothing that you're doing right now or nothing that you've done in the past when it comes to pleasuring yourself is wrong. It's not wrong. You have a more evolved understanding on intimacy right now. And your mother doesn't know, or our mother does not know how to explain to you on how to use this. Not to make you feel shameful, but to help you evolve. And she just looks at me sideways. She's trying to understand what I'm saying. And I said, what do you feel in that moment by yourself when when these things and these urges happen? And she says, I feel happy, I feel relieved, I feel easy. I feel like I want to go play afterwards. I said, that's perfectly fine. I said, you're supposed to feel that way. It's perfectly fine for you to feel that way, especially for what it is that you're going through right now. And she says, okay, so why does mommy tell me I can't do it? I said, it's not the fact, baby, go get changed, Stinky. Yeah, go get changed, Stinky. It's not the fact that you're doing it. Your mom is afraid. Our mom is afraid that something that's not so good is going to happen to you if you do things like this. Like, she's afraid that it's going to wind up happening with other children or other adults, or adults or people who should not be having these type of interactions with you. And she said, oh. I said, but here's what I'm here to tell you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you satisfying yourself and making yourself feel happy. I said, and I literally, out of thin air, I pull this pillow out. I give it to her. I said, this is your magical pillow. Okay? Do what you please, what makes you feel good with your magical pillow. And know that your magical pillow protects you. I said, what this is going to teach you, I said, and what this is meant to teach you, is to learn how to make your body feel safe when it comes to doing things that make you feel good. Now, this magical pillow and you are just just you and your magical pillow. If y'all have ever seen Big Mouth, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I literally watched Big Mouth and was able to implement this into myself. And I tell her, I said, this, and it's about with I said, now you with this magical pillow, this is going to give you the confidence. So when you get old enough to experience this thing that you're doing with yourself, with someone else, you'll first know your boundaries of what you do and don't like. Two, you'll learn how to select how or when to do this with another person through time. But you have to give yourself time and space to be able to learn this. So for now, this is just your special thing, just for you. It's for no one else. It's your special thing, just for you. And you can do whatever you want to do with you by yourself, with your special thing. It's between you and Mr. Pillow. Okay? And she looks at me and she starts smiling. She says, okay, I can do that. I can be special with myself. I like that. And literally, at that moment, I literally snapped my fingers and we're back to the moment, which my mom is having a conversation with her. And I place her back in her spot and she has her special pillow. And I said, remember what I said now. This is your special pillow that's meant just for you and the pillow. And nobody can take this from you. And there is nothing wrong with you. She smiles at me and she says, okay, I remember. I won't forget. Snap my fingers and I'm back. Now, this is what happens when you reach a core trauma and finally face it head on. And then you change the story and the narrative. Because what you perceive as a child is not necessarily the truth. It's a misunderstanding that happens based off of what your parents have been through, what your situation looks like, your extended situations look like, and all these outside factors that have actually nothing to do with you personally. When you can go through and address the core issue of the problem and literally heal that core issue, it has no choice but to ripple throughout the entire body as a new memory. This is how you start to feel safe again while you're still growing. Because now, every time I think about the memory, I'm going to think about the conversation that we had, and I'm going to think about my little special pillow and how that little special pillow gave me the confidence to feel confident inside of my own body. I can literally go back to that little girl anytime and I can literally look 5 years ahead of time and from that moment as a child and see how it has positively affected me those 5 years later. And I can see how confident she is in her body and how she is comfortable in her body. She does not feel this shame over her. It's like a lighter feeling. Still waiting on the selection to come, but confident in her own will, in her own selective knowing, in her own core that not only was she never did anything wrong, but it gave her the confidence to go forward and live more brightly, less shameful. Now, how does all of this play into wealth? Well, when you can heal the core shame of yourself, you're not so worried about what somebody is going to think of you. You're not so worried about how somebody is going to respond to you when you do something that you want and still continue to do it even if they do feel uncomfortable by it. It does not change your actions or your outcomes. It has no more, it lessens the effect that it has on your outcomes as you continue to work on it. Like I said, if I was not able to heal the problem of the problem of the problem of the problem, I wouldn't have been able to go up here and express this to you today. Now, mind you, I'm a parent. I am able to take this same thing that happened to myself and teach my son at some point. So, to all the parents out there who have children and you are afraid to have the talk with them, here's a perfect example of what you can do and what you can say. So you can help your child not feel ashamed about the body that they're in. Help give them some guidelines about how to go about doing it, but not to feel shame. Because a lot of us are out here feeling shame. This is one reason why we have things like body dysmorphia. I promise you, I felt like I was not here meant to be a girl at one point. I promise you, I did. Every time I had sex with a female, I would feel this way. Now, mind you, this doesn't have to be for everyone. This is my personal story. But I also know there are a lot of you out here that can also relate. So, this is what I mean when I say I am now living in my erotic wealth era. I don't feel too much shame anymore when it comes to the things that I want out of life. I I still say what I know what I'm working. I know what I'm working towards to get, and I'm not shameful about it, not one little bit. I want that $100 million, estates and yachts and vacation homes and all of that good stuff, and I plan on getting it. How about you? Does that $1 million that I told you in the beginning you would have at the end of the year, does that seem further away now, or maybe a little bit closer to attaining? This is what I help people do. I was able to help heal myself from this, and this is how I use the same methods that I use on myself to heal these core chakra traumas. And I only work with the heart chakra down. I don't work from the throat chakra up. I don't work with the third eye. I don't work with your throat, because honestly, once you fix these three major problems, first being the root. Ooh, excuse me. First being the root, which deals with your fear of not having enough, and then the guilt associated with getting with what you want. Then dealing with what we just talked about, shame, and then anxiety, which is your feeling of your lack of control, the feeling of your being in control, the fear of being not being in control, the fear of not being in control when it comes to natural situations, when it comes to nature stepping in, you trying to control nature instead of just going with the flow. Um, but yeah, I only work with the lower, And this was just a small little demonstration or exercise on how I healed one particular area. This has been very fun and very therapeutic for me, like to say the least. Um, I'm very happy that I was able to share this story with you and give you some insights of who I am and what I do and how I do it. All right, guys. Well, until next time, and also don't forget to click the link. We'll be going in to find that trauma and remove that thing because it gotta go. Your wealth era is calling you. It's calling you right here, right now. That $1 million at the end of the year, I promise you, it's calling you. And it's time for you to go get it. And it's time for you to move those things out of the way that has been trying to stop you. Say that shit in here. You moving it to the back. All right, guys. Until next time, with love and peace.